We'll call the regularly scheduled June Park District Board meeting to order. Today is June 10th, 2024. We're at the City Hall. Any additions or deletions to the agenda?
None.
None? Okay. Moving on to public communication from visitors. We'll open that portion meeting. We have one visitor with us tonight. We'll open that up if you have some comments or would you like to talk to the board. Sir, can I have you go up to the microphone there and state your name and
Absolutely.
Thank you.
My name's Richard Tentis, and I just thought I'd stop in today and see how things are going. But I also had one comment about the excessive tournament play at Prairie West, which is an old issue. I realize that, but it's a continuing problem because it restricts the ability of the people who support the golf course and actually pay for it and own it, the citizens of Mandan. And that's my concern. Now, I know nothing is probably going to be happened about this in the near future, but it is an issue that I intend on pursuing as to the best of my ability until it changes, because it's it's gone way overboard. Way overboard. It's not a tiny thing. It's a big thing. And it hasn't really changed over the years. I don't know why. I know it makes money for the golf course. I know that. That's not the issue. It's not a private golf course. If it was a private golf course, I'd put a bid on it right now so I could make the money. I don't know where that money's going. As far as to the golf course, is it going strictly to the golf course? That's all right. That's great. But it still doesn't alleviate the fact that there's a big issue there with it depriving the use of members or taxpayers of Mandan with the ability to use that facility. That's what the facility was made for. It wasn't made for Bismarck businesses to schedule their tournaments in Mandan and deprive the citizens of Mandan use of a facility that is a Mandan facility. And that's what it's turned into. There's a very good reason why why that tournament play isn't in Bismarck. There's a very good reason. Because those people over there realize the impact it would have on daily play. There's a very good reason why those tournaments aren't in Bismarck. And it's just one of those issues that something needs to be done about it. It's causing a lot of issues. Scheduling right now, there's some minor band-aids that are trying to be put on the issue by scheduling tee times before the tournament and tee times after the tournament. Well, if you want to get up at 5:30 in the morning and play golf, that's fine. You can schedule to play at 7:15 and then get done before the tournament. And the other option is to play at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. To me, neither one of those is a very good option. I'm not going to spend my whole day getting up at 5 in the morning to play golf at 7 o'clock. No, it's not going to happen. It's just not a viable way of solving the issue. Anyway, that's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Rick. All right, moving on to minutes. Approval of the May 13th, 2024 regular board meeting minutes. Can we get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the May 13th, 2024 regular meeting minutes.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Freilich.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Scott. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. All right, we'll move along to item number 1. Consider for approval amendments to joint powers agreement with Mandan Public Schools for the All Seasons Arena. You guys met again, Cole. Who represents it? Who represents our board? You two? Okay.
Yep. So President Meskey and Commissioners, just so you're aware, we met back in January like we do every year with the school and the parks along with their elected officials. During our 23 audit, there was a catch, which was great. With all the things that we've had going on in construction, the school district going on, there was a little bit of an oversight. So in 2021, the park district and the school district each contributed $250,000 to help contribute to the, well, I guess, we each put $250,000 into the joint powers agreement facility fund. And then from out of there, we transferred out $1 million to pay for the land that the east parking lot for the Starting Sports Complex that complements the Mandan Tennis Center. Part of those discussions were that we were going to add on an additional 4 years to the lease to Mandan School District for the use of the football and the track. So technically what we have today is we have a 10-year lease with them that they paid $1.25 back in 2015. We started it in 17 when we opened the facility through 27. When we added the additional contributions, we said we would do additional 4 years, and that was agreed upon, everybody, at that time. But we never made the amendment in the joint powers agreement. So the agreement that you see in front of you specifies all the details about the lease that we have for the original 10, but we never added the 4 years on.
So it amends it to 14 years then?
Correct.
With that additional money.
So it goes until 2031 is where that would extend to. So that's what the first component was. Well, then the second component was if we're going to bring this agreement before you, we're going to do it later this summer, knowing if the Mandan Public Schools is going to need the All-Seasons Arena this fall for their whatever their athletic needs or physical education or any other athletic needs that they would need that they currently operate out of today. So the way the All-Seasons Arena is operated is that the school district currently staffs it. They handle all the janitorial expenses. We own the building. We handle all the utilities and building repairs associated with it. We each have a cost share percentage of staffing that we prorate. And at the end of the year, we add up what you spent and we add up what we spent, divide it in half, and whoever paid more, we write a check to split the difference. Well, now starting August 1st, that's why we were approved in April to hire Tom Krebs. He is now full-time. That'll work part-time at Raging Rivers, 6 months, and 6 months up at the All-Seasons Arena. We will be responsible for staffing it starting April 1st through the end of the year. And then come January 1 of 25, we will reschedule our next joint powers agreement and then renegotiate how we're going to see this thing moving forward. So the changes that we're just saying is now we will allocate 50% of 2 full-time employees, the 2 employees that will be responsible for that facility from a supervisory responsibility and maintenance needs. That is how we will track the remaining 4 months. Basically, we're just flipping the operational expenditures how we had it before. And then after January 1, I probably see us going back to how we operated where we're not charging each other, using each other's facilities. The only reason why charging got put together on that is that they were providing the staff. We weren't providing staff, and they were handling all of the day phy-ed. Normally, the school district would have phy-ed in there from 8 to 3:30, then from 3:30 to 6 was all of their athletic practices, and then the evenings was all park district stuff. And then on the weekends was kind of hit and miss of everybody, from user groups to the school district to park district events and activities. So now we see that role coming to the park district. And that's always been agreed upon, but the actual funding as far as how we're going to pay for that the last 4 months is what we're bringing here for today. So there's 2 changes to the amendment, as I mentioned. Just extending the 4 years on the lease, and then the financing arrangement, how we will handle the expenses with the All-Seasons Arena.
Did you guys get a chance to talk about after the high school is built and they're out of the old one and even it's demoed, as far as the land that the all-season arena
So that'll
sits
be,
on?
they're very well aware of our needs.
Because it's the school district property,
Yes,
right?
the school district owns the property. The building is the park district's. That's how it was put on in the 80s. We've expressed our needs to have a parking lot to the west of the All-Seasons Arena for all the events. We'll have the parking lot to the north near the Brave Center. We asked for a 50-foot buffer around the perimeter of our property, so that way then we can have a little bit of green space and or sidewalks or the ability to move snow is what we need. Right now today on that east end between the back of the high school gym and the All-Seasons Arena, it's very tight and it gets blown in there. So we want to have a buffer so we can get large equipment in there to move snow quickly and efficiently. And we did negotiate with the Mandan Wrestling Club, the upper level, for a lease with them. That's where their new entrance probably will be, is on that where they access to the weight room today. That would be the wrestling club's new access point. So there's a lot of needs in our, but as far as anything written down, as far as specifically what we're going to get, as far as land from the school, that has not been negotiated or documented.
And your next scheduled meeting's when?
It's usually that first Thursday or second Thursday in January. It's reoccurring.
Okay, any questions for, I guess, Cole or Commissioner Mudd or
Yeah, I
Commissioner
have a
Fraley?
question. I see Ferris Field football, field and track is still here as a school-owned facility, et cetera. Any talk of any changes there, or is that intended to still remain on here, even though that's changing?
Yes, we'll edit all of those and amend and take off the ones that were no longer there, or, yep, correct.
And are we still contributing 50,000 a year? Is that
It is.
current plan?
And we did talk about if it gets to a certain level, at what point do we want to reduce those contributions? But you got to think of all the shared facilities between the pool, the sports complex, outdoor tennis courts, all those that fall under that responsibility that are being utilized by both school and park. So we know there's some big ticketed items that we have to plan for.
Anything else for Cole? Okay, what are the board's wishes?
I recommend the approval of the revisions and amendment to the joint facility use agreement.
Motion by Commissioner Mutter,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Freilich. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. And moving on to item number 2, update on bag policy revisions. I know we had this at our last meeting, we tabled it. We had Attorney Ruff look at it a little bit. Cole did send a draft to Commissioner Melhoff and myself. We went through it and made a couple changes to it. Just to be clear, Cole, we're putting this policy in more so if we ever want to enact it. It's not necessarily that it's going to go into an effect at every facility, at every event, things like that. It's just more for us to say if we feel a need to check bags, we have a policy to fall back on. Is that correct?
Yes, President Meskey and Commissioners, you are correct. You think back 5 years ago, back to 2015, when we didn't have the Star and Sports Complex, the rodeo arena, some of these large ticketed events that are getting a lot of, anywhere between 2,000 to 6,000 people probably show up at all these events at one time. So it was our recommendation from a safety committee to put something together that gives, and I guess one caveat I want to add is, we as a park district necessarily do not operate those large events. Like the Mandan Rodeo that's coming up here this weekend, there's going to be 12,000 people there over the 3 days. We give them the ability to determine how strict they would like to be based on this policy. So the policy is very broad. It gives you, as you can see, 3 or 4 different bullet points that if you want to get really strict and restrict any of them, you have that right. If you don't want to do anything, you don't. The issue that comes back to that from the park district is liability. If we had some type of active threat or some type of incident that unfortunately we don't ever want to deal with, but if it were to happen, and they asked us if we had a policy in place, we can say we do. Now, did the user group have a policy in place who's renting your facility? That would be their responsibility to determine how strict. We did get a call from security. It was a great call. Is the Mandan Rodeo Days asked the question, do we have to follow this 100%, or does the park district implement what you charge for bags? And the answer is the park district is giving that right to the people or the tenants that are leasing our facilities. We have agreements with everybody that utilizes our facilities. This will be added to it when we renew them here at the end of the year. But they, as a board, meaning Mandan Rodeo Days Committee, can decide how strict they want to be. And that would go for any facility. Mandan Public Schools at the Star and Sports Complex or any other facilities. Any group that's using our facilities will have the ability to decide how stringent they want to be. They would have to have the responsibility to sign it, because obviously if you go to the rodeo one day, they're saying no bags. Maybe the next day we're going to the races, and they're saying you can bring a bag of this size. And then you go to the Star and Sports Complex, and they're saying you can bring any bag you want in. So that's why we're keeping it vague enough to level them how strict they want to be, but they have to sign it and communicate it.
Cole, does the high school or the public school have anything written up?
No, they do not, but we did have discussions with Mr. Weiss, the athletic director, about potentially implementing something similar to this, so that if they choose to, it's consistent with all their activities, but they haven't really done much with it since.
Thank you.
Have we had user groups ask about a policy? Have we had, or just more emergency services? And
So 2 things have happened. One, the Stock Car Association has had a bag policy for quite a few years. We have had a couple instances where citizens have brought things to our facilities, without getting into too much details, that have put things at risk. And so we took care of it and addressed it immediately. And we had safety precautions in place, so nothing happened. But yes, we've had instances and no user groups have requested it. But you think about like McQuaid's, right? Large people, a lot of access points into there. Our community's changing, the world's changing, and I think we just got to be prepared.
I guess with the changes, you're right, it's broad. My question is, if we are putting a policy in place that we're not maybe enforcing, does that bring us to some sort of a risk as well? All the other policies that we try to enforce, does does that open us up? Well, you have a policy, but nobody's doing it. Is that something that Attorney Ruff was able to?
He didn't elaborate on that. If we are running a facility, no different than like no fireworks being allowed on park property unless you are licensed to light off professional fireworks.
And that's an ordinance, though,
That's an
right?
ordinance, correct. But we had a policy before, and it was so hard to enforce, we had to go to the ordinance.
Cole, did you check on any other park and recs, if they have any bag policies?
This depends. Dave Free, our facility manager who manages all the facilities, did do a research of all of the large venues in comparison. Some didn't have anything. Some had very strict. Obviously you get into like the Alaris Center, the Civic Center, or Event Center. You get into some of the Fargo Domes. Some of them are very strict in what they do in large capacities. So it was all over the board.
Everybody had a chance to look at it, I hope, and read through it. Again, it's not very long. It's pretty generalized, but it does give us some avenue to pursue if we ever felt that we needed it and got to that point. And I think more so, like Cole said, this is more of a safety thing. I think maybe some of the other bags might have things in there that maybe they should be buying. Maybe at the stock car, things like that. But our thing is the safety and making sure. And then you think about our golf course as well. You got all sorts of bags coming in there too. So, and there's access. There's all sorts of access points when it comes to that.
And President Meskey and Commissioners, we've had a bag search policy at Raging Rivers for quite a while. Not this elaborate. We were very generic. We realized that moms are going to bring bags to young children. But we've had probably more inappropriate things brought into that facility by doing the bag checks. So,
I would agree that it's a step in the right direction. Like Cole said, our world and our community has changed and is continuing to change. So to have this at least in place, so the work is done, and then if we decide or the user groups decide to use it, then it's there.
Yeah. Went to a Twins game a few weeks ago, and there are no bags. I mean, there's locker rooms outside that you can rent, and you have to have a combination for. And you just there were small clear bags you could bring in, but other than that, it was. I mean, even a wallet was tough to. A purse was difficult to justify. So it's, I mean, obviously we're not Major League Baseball, but we still want to put safety at our forefront. So. Okay.
I can talk about the Stock Car Club. They've had theirs for a lot of years because of their number one reason was because of glass. People throwing glasses, at other people and stuff. So it's always been there at the Stock Car Club for that reason is glass, and of course other food and stuff. But that was one of the reasons why they did it. So.
Well, I would recommend the approval of the facility bag policy and added to the future facilities lease agreements.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Scott, second by Commissioner Melhoff. I think the one thing it does say in there, the advertising of the no bag policy, and I think when we go through and redo our agreements with these user groups, that that they make sure that they're doing that, because at a Major League Baseball game, they were making money on those lockers out there. Okay, I don't think we're going to have lockers out there and things like that, so we want to be able to make sure that when they come to the rodeo, they realize that this is a case if they decide to do that, or the stock car, whichever the organization is, just so we don't have mad patrons too on top of that. So, okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Item number 3, construction project updates.
President Meskey and
Highway
Commissioner.
6 multi-purpose trail.
Sorry.
Yep.
Forgot to do the bullet point one. Just so you're aware, Highway 6, we have our first meeting on Thursday. So that construction project, which it starts at 19th Street Southwest, will head north on the east side of Highway 6 and then tie into the bridge there on the Hart River near the Mandan Golf Course. That is scheduled to be done hopefully by this fall, but you'll start seeing construction happen probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks with mobilization, things starting to happen. As you know, it was a grant. We applied in 2022. And then it's always 2 years later, then we have the construction taking place upon a funding. As you kind of can see, just the breakdown, bids came in around $581,000. We got a $470,000 grant. You have a 20% local match plus engineering costs, and you kind of can see how all those engineering costs are being broke out. So just bring it to your attention that that project will start soon. And 19th Street, as you know, was put in 2 years ago. We're still in, I guess I'll call it, negotiations for some of the repairs that need to get done with the contractor and the design firm. The city of Mandan was the lead on that project, and they are working on trying to get those addressed.
So that area that continues to flood is
low
still
area.
being addressed? I mean, I know they kind of put a ditch in on one side or tried to dig some of that out, but it's still every day when it rains, it's
But
still.
we're hoping when they pour the asphalt on this trail, that they can run the machine over there and put another lift on that section to get it raised up and do a 2 or 4 inch lift, and hopefully that will solve the problem.
Seems like our mics are cutting out. Okay, and it seems like some of those. I'm not an engineer by any means, but we have drainage grates on top of hills. I don't know if you guys have seen that. Is that
What, I'm sorry?
well on the 19th Street trail? There's a drainage up kind of on top of a hill, unless it's not
Yeah,
drainage.
they're beehive catch basin inlets up there, and they should have put one more in to catch
Yeah.
that lake. But
Okay.
I think the intent there is to catch the water before it gets to the path. So the water between the path and the road, to catch it, so it's not always running across the path and taking dirt across there and everything. So that's kind of why they're there. And you don't want to run it all the way down the hill because it gains velocity. So if you can capture the water from the top of the hill, at the top of the hill, get it underground, and then all the way down. So if they would have added one more up the hill, we wouldn't be having this
Gotcha.
issue here. But just kind of the point there, I think.
That's why there's an engineer here that can explain those. Okay, no, that makes sense. Yeah, I think I still hear about it. I mean, I hear that it was too expensive. I hear all those things. I would do it again. I mean, we what we paid for that and what we would have had to pay if we did not have that funding program through the federal government would have been a lot more. And it gets used. There are people on it all the time, and there are kids on there riding their bikes to school. There are people running out there, and to finish this off is a good thing for our city, I think. So, okay, park operations building.
We did a tour last month. A lot of things have gotten done. We're about 90% complete. The only thing really to get completed is just some of the exterior concrete. If you had a chance to go down there, they poured a lot of concrete in the last week. So microphone's working. The south side of the entrance will be the new entrance off of 7th. That's the last portion to get poured, and there's a little bit on the east side. So that little bit's getting done. The downspouts are being added as I was down there today. Epoxy floors and the ceiling tiles were all installed. They're putting in all the casework, so all of that's getting done as far as the break room areas. AVI will be there next week, along with Energy to put the Wi-Fi into the building. And then Midco's got to bring the fiber to the building, and there's conduit stubbed out underneath all the concrete, for that'll be an easy access in it. We're projecting to be in the building by the end of the month, but we basically said we'll do something after the 4th of July because we got McQuaid's and the rodeo, and then you got a holiday. So we're not going to really move everything in there until probably after the 4th of July, and then we should be able to close that project out. And that's all the updates on that
Was
one.
Dustin able to get the concrete where he wanted it with that extra? Okay.
If you get a chance, there's a lot of concrete that got poured.
Yeah.
And then we're probably going to have to, in the future, go to the east on that current asphalt where you drive through the old entrance gate. We had some bird baths and things in there with some just worn out asphalt. We got to look at trying to do that and phase that in over time.
And Ferris Field.
Kind of the same thing. It got kicked off. Now the rain today slowed it down, but if you had a chance, all of the poles and backstops are in. So they got to have a cure date. I can't remember how many weeks it's a cure, but the concrete's got to cure before they put the fabric up on the fences. That'll be the next thing you'll see is the fences getting fabric in, irrigation's going in, agar lime's being spread. We still got a lot of agar lime to be hauled in. And then you'll start seeing the grass was total killed, and then I'll be reseeded here shortly after we get the irrigation and everything in and hopefully get that rolling. Probably won't be playable next spring. If we have a great fall with some wet and it grows in and fills in pretty well, we should be fine, but probably going to be mid to late summer that we should be able to utilize those fields next year. So things are moving along great. As you kind of can see, we're probably 2/3 through that project too for completion as far as pay requests.
Okay. Any questions on any of the projects for Cole? Okay, thanks for the update, Cole. All right, that brings us to our last item on the agenda, and that's to pay our monthly bills. Can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the authorized payments of the monthly bills.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Freilich,
Second.
second by Commissioner Scott. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, future meeting dates for Park Board Commissioners on July 8th, 2024 will be our regularly scheduled, well, there's actually, we just called, there's going to be a special meeting on June 27th at noon at the Mandan Parks and Rec offices. We will go reorganize after the election as far as talk about our portfolios and so on, but we'll also be looking at the audit. We sat through, Commissioner Meloff and I sat through that today. They're just going to make a few changes to that and a few corrections to what when we had discussion, and we will have a chance to, we need to do that before, well, we typically do it at our July meeting, but I think our auditors could not be there for that. So that's an additional one that came out just today. So, and then July 8th, a regular park board meeting, July 11th, admin portfolio with Cole at the park board meeting, or at the park administration office, and then on July 29th, we will go through our budget retreat and do our first reading of the budget, and that is at 4 p.m. at Raging Rivers Park Administration Building. Any commissioner reports? Anything else, Cole?
One thing I add is I will send out the agenda for the retreat, so it's pretty similar to prior years. Obviously, if there's new projects and opportunities that are going to come forward in the future, we will send that. If there's things that you want to have added, let me know prior to that July 11th. That way I can finalize the agenda with the president, assuming if there's any changes after the portfolio reorganizational meeting, we can go through that and talk about what the retreat will be. And that's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Mutter.
Dasun Bobcat did a bunch of work at the dog park today. There was 8 guys out there for 8 hours, so that's 64 free hours of work that they put in there. They seeded some grass and moved some rock around and move some dirt around and stuff like that. So I want to make sure I thank Brian and the Bobcat group that came and did that. It was really kind of cool seeing all their cool machinery, and they even had a machine out there that I wasn't supposed to see, so that was even better yet. So, and then the second thing I want to bring up is I want to give Mandan Progress Organization a big congratulations on Buggies and Blues last weekend. All the people they had and stuff like that were part of the city. I'm glad that they can do it and did a very nice job with it, and seeing all the people is happy to see. So I give them credit too. So thank you.
Commissioner Freilich.
No report.
Commissioner Melhoff.
No report this month, thanks.
Okay, Commissioner Scott.
Obviously, the golf course is up and running, and I would like to mention to Rick, appreciate you being here because you're a great member at the golf course. We always try to keep things communication-wise open, and so I'm glad that you again brought this to our attention. Cole and I and Garrett just met last week in regards to the upcoming budget years and plans for the future, and we have some really good plans for the future and where some of that money that you were talking about is going to be going. So yes, the scrambles do take up some time, but they also bring in a lot of revenue that we can put back into the golf course. So, but I do appreciate you, Rick, and I know you're an avid golfer, and I know you're just looking for the best options for our community, so I appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. All right, with that, can we get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Mutter,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Freilich. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.